Good evening. As Chairman of Hartford Board of Education, I hereby call to order June 13th, 2023's regular meeting. I wish to extend a warm welcome to everyone present and to our television viewers. The board, superintendent, and I are pleased that you have joined us to celebrate achievement, review information, and make policy decisions related to the effective operations of Hartford Public Schools. This is a regular meeting, and all meetings will be discussed, and all items that will be discussed and voted on this evening have been posted as required by state law. As the Hartford Board of Education, we are here to set goals, listen to the reports of the superintendent, approve budgets, contracts, and personnel appointments, and make policies for the district. We are not here to make management decisions or solve the problems of individuals. Management is the responsibility of the superintendent. The monthly meetings are meetings of the board are open to the public. They are the time when the board conducts its business of governing the school system in a public forum. The regular meetings are not meetings with the public. Therefore, comments from the audience will be confined to the time designated for the public to address the board. Decorum and courtesy are important elements in an effective public meeting. Please silence your cell phones or communication devices and refrain from talking while others are speaking. Since it is legally mandated that proceedings be accurately recorded, I may have to ask for order periodically should noise begin to interfere with our recording capabilities. I am pleased that you have taken this time to join us this evening. We are very proud of the school system, and thank you for your interest in Hartford Public Schools. Now this will be read in Spanish.
Buenas noches. El presidente de la Junta de Educación ha llamado a orden esta reunión ordinaria de la Junta del 13 de junio 2023. Damos una cálida bienvenida a todas las personas presentes y a nuestros televidentes. La Junta y la Superintendente se complacen que se han unido a nosotros para celebrar logros, revisar información y tomar decisiones relacionadas con el funcionamiento efectivo de las escuelas públicas de Hartford. Esta es una reunión ordinaria y todos los asuntos que serán discutidos o votados en esta tarde han sido notificados como lo requiere la ley estatal. Como Junta de Educación de Hartford, estamos aquí para establecer metas, escuchar los informes de la superintendente, aprobar los presupuestos, contratos y nombramientos de personal y establecer normas para el distrito. No estamos aquí para tomar decisiones administrativas o resolver problemas individuales. La administración es la responsabilidad de la superintendente. Las reuniones mensuales de la Junta están abiertas al público. Son el momento en que la Junta lleva a cabo su tarea de gobernar el sistema escolar en un espacio público. Las reuniones regulares no son reuniones con el público. Por lo tanto, los comentarios de la audiencia se limitarán al tiempo designado para el público dirigirse a la Junta. El decoro y la cortesía son elementos importantes en reuniones públicas eficaces. Por favor, silencie sus teléfonos celulares o dispositivos de comunicación y absténganse de hablar mientras otros están hablando. Ya que es mandato legal de que los procedimientos sean grabados con precisión, es posible que tengamos que pedir orden periódicamente si el ruido interfiere con nuestras capacidades de grabación. Nos complace que se haya tomado el tiempo esta tarde para unirse a nosotros. Estamos muy orgullosos de este sistema escolar y les damos gracias por su interés en las escuelas públicas de Hartford. Y si alguien aquí en viva necesita traducción, por favor levante sus manos.
Thank you. Before we move to public comments, I would like to pass the microphone to Superintendent for a special ceremony with our scholar athletes. Superintendent.
Thank you, Chairman. We do want to take a moment to recognize some of our exceptional students who have not only excelled academically, but also are leaders and talented members of their school athletic teams. So the CIAC Scholar Athlete Program recognizes 2 high school seniors from each high school whose academic and athletic careers have been exemplary, whose personal standards and achievements are a model to others, and who also possess high levels of integrity, self-discipline, and courage. And so we're going to just introduce you to our scholar athletes. So we have 2 representatives from Buckley, High School, Adrian Ortiz, ranked 15th in his class, Promise Scholar who played volleyball and soccer and is heading to UConn. And Daisa Torres, who played volleyball and basketball and is heading to CCSU. I don't know if you're here. If you are, you can stand up as we stand up and, kind of like, sure, yes. So I think we're going to do that. As I call your name, stand up as I'm sharing about your greatness. So from Capital Prep, Janessa Pearson, who is the valedictorian and Promise Scholar, is headed to UConn. She played both volleyball and softball and was the captain of her softball team. And Kyrie Ross, ranked 3rd in the class, competed in cross country and indoor and outdoor track. He is also heading to UConn. From Classical Magnet, we have 2 tri-captains who led the soccer, basketball, and track teams. Dwight Biggs, salutatorian, will be heading to Howard, and Jermaine Charlie will be heading to Eastern Connecticut State University. From Hartford Magnet Trinity College Academy, we have Natalie Norbutt, who excelled on the swim team, was the captain, and performed at an all-conference level. She is going to be attending Springfield College, where she's going to be continuing her swimming career. And Nathan Moyer who, was one of the leaders on the basketball, football, and baseball teams, heading over to George Washington University. From Hartford Public High School, Christopher Pineda Duran is the valedictorian, all-conference in football, earned the seal of biliteracy, is a Promise Scholar, who will be heading over to Trinity and playing football also at Trinity College. And Jennifer Santos Oliveiras was top 10 in the class, played soccer, and is one of 3 students in our district to earn the seal of biliteracy in 3 languages, heading over to be a UConn Husky. From Sports and Medical Sciences Academy, valedictorian Zenita Hamzavajovic. She will be attending University of Connecticut, and her major will be healthcare management. She is a member of SMSA's varsity volleyball team. Co-salutatorian is Cyan Goodby, and he will be heading over to University of Hartford, and his major will be politics and government. Also will play baseball at UHart and aspires to be politically active in the future, and is also an identical twin. Our Scholar athletes from University High, Cassidy Ward, ranked in the top 10 in her class at University High, captain of the indoor and outdoor track teams. She will be attending UConn with her classmate and teammate Justin Chidozi, who was the captain of the football team, also competed in indoor and outdoor track and field. Congratulations to University High Scholars. Right here in this house, Weaver Jasmine Corona was on the volleyball and basketball teams and will be attending Eastern Connecticut State University. Taylor Wilson is a Promise Scholar, valedictorian, captain of the volleyball and softball teams, heading over to the University of Southern California. We have, I think those are the Scholar athletes that are here. And so I would ask Scholar athletes if you can come on stage, join us with our Board of Education as we celebrate you and capture this moment. Good stuff. Good stuff, yeah. Just want to make sure that we have coaches And our school leaders and proud principals, please join us. And proud parents, join us.
Congrats. Congratulations. Thank you. Squeeze it a little bit.
On this side, just slide this way a little bit.
This is California.
Balance us all on this side.
I know. Where, yeah, there are a couple of cameras. Because there's a camera over there too.
We'll do one picture right here first, okay?
Wait, we'll make sure that we have everyone. Someone's in the back. We gotta make sure that everyone, okay.
Good?
See, college.
That's right.
Perfect, thank you.
All right, come up.
Over there.
Middle.
Right
Okay,
here.
okay.
Right over there. Okay.
Good. Excellent.
You have the good stuff?
Thank you, Superintendent, and again, congratulations to our scholar athletes. As you were calling out the names, I wish I was 20 years younger. I would have challenged some of these scholar athletes to a competition, but being that I have now bad knees, I'll celebrate and facilitate this meeting. We'll now move on to public comments. Ms. Escobar?
Thank you, Chair. We as a board in collaboration with the superintendent and district leadership are committed to cultivating a culture of excellence at all levels of HPS. We thank you for taking the time to attend tonight's board meeting. We appreciate you coming out to learn more about Hartford Public Schools and for sharing your thoughts and concern. We have established a protocol to track and respond to concerns raised. We want you to know that we take your concerns very seriously, and to that end, staff will follow up within 48 hours. If follow-up is required via the preferred method of contact the speaker has indicated on the sign-in sheet, we will follow this no-contact method of follow-up for the time being, adhering to safety protocols. As a reminder, you have 3 minutes to speak. At the 2-minute mark, the bell will ring, letting you know that you have 1 minute left. At the second bell, please wrap up your comments. Now this will be read in Spanish.
Nosotros, la Junta de Educación, en colaboración con la superintendente y personal del distrito, estamos comprometidos a cultivar una cultura de excelencia en todos los niveles de las escuelas públicas de Hartford. Les agradecemos se haya tomado el tiempo para asistir a la reunión de la Junta esta noche. Les agradecemos su participación y su deseo de aprender más sobre las escuelas públicas de Hartford, y también por compartir sus pensamientos y preocupaciones. Nosotros tomamos sus preocupaciones muy seriamente y hemos establecido un protocolo para el seguimiento y respuesta a inquietudes planteadas. El personal hará un seguimiento dentro de las 48 horas, si fuera necesario, a través del método de contacto preferido que el orador haya indicado en la hoja de registro. Seguiremos este método de seguimiento sin contacto por el momento, adhiriéndonos a los protocolos de seguridad. Esa persona investigará su caso y se comunicará con usted dentro de las 48 horas. Les recordamos que tienen 3 minutos para hablar. Cuando han pasado 2 minutos, el timbre sonará, dejándole saber que le queda 1 minuto. Al segundo sonido, por favor, termine sus comentarios. And our first speaker is Michael Downs.
Good evening, board members, superintendent. My name is Michael Downs. I live at 74 Rosemont Street in Hartford. And for nigh on 32 years since I've been president, nigh on 32 years since I've been president of the Hartford Federation of Substitute Teachers, 1992. To the president, actually, I was president in 1991 for a brief period. And I've always offered at these meetings, and I've been to almost every one since then, to help recruit substitute teachers and do it on a voluntary basis. Now I read in the paper that there's $2.5 million available. So I don't know, maybe I'm not so willing to do it on a voluntary basis anymore, that much money around. Because I certainly could set up a good company for that much money to recruit substitute teachers and paraprofessional teachers. This company has been recruiting paraprofessional teachers at least for the past year or more, and I haven't seen that it's very successful. But be that as it may, that much money, we could do a lot on our own. We don't need to hire some company from New Jersey to do our recruiting for us when we could set up a group here among ourselves. You know that they're going to offer recruitment bonuses and employment bonuses. And they're going to sit there and work for 90 days with their bonus, maybe work more than that, maybe work the year and then get out, look for something else. They'll take the bonus. If they have that much money for bonuses, we could also give some of the recruiters a bonus. But be that as it may, this is a lot of money to be giving to a company from New Jersey to do our recruiting for us when we could very well recruit on our own. Thank you.
Dr. Maya T. Bowen.
Good evening. My name is Dr. Maya T. Bowen, and I am a representative of the Greater Hartford African American Alliance as the Education Chair. In 2021, we experienced something that hit the entire planet, and that was the pandemic. Because of the pandemic, Hartford Public Schools was poised to provide some interventions for our students through tutoring. Namely so, intervention K-12 was on the voting roster, and it was voted on at a tune of $3.3 million, and I'm approximating. Over the course of the past 2 years, it has been very seldomly given of information that provides transparency that allows for us to understand in terms of our community the original proposal to the board of 4,500 students to be tutored, whereas of latest record, 810 students in the district actually were served at the tune of $3.3 million. So there are a lot of questions to be asked here. One of those questions includes, but is not limited to, why not the 4,500, and why did the modality change from after school to in school? Because that was not what was proposed. In addition, are there records that show who it is that tutored the students online and how long they actually were served? Accordingly, if you look at the 810 students that have been served, that only represents 18% of the 4,500 that were proposed and voted in approval by the board. And so with that being said, who does the due diligence in terms of identifying specifics related to the school system's acknowledgement of credentials being met for tutoring that was online, whereby I want to make note that our students did not do well in an online platform, which, when I think about it, because I teach information systems technology, if you're going to choose a modality that does not already produce success, why not make it something where they can do on campus in person with a tutoring company locally? Need I remind anybody that may not know, this company actually came from the state of Texas, but it's also found to have origins delineating from the state of Delaware. So where does it really reside? Also, it has a P.O. box and no formal home. Thank you.
Patricia Mack.
Good evening. I would like to say a few words, and today I am in a positive mood and in a positive note. I am saying thank you, thank you, thank you. The former Mayor Carrie Perry Saxon mural was unveiled last Saturday on June 10th at 1:00 p.m. I would like to say thank you to Levy Cardulis, who was our project leader, and a really special shout out to Stan McCauley, even though he isn't here today. He was the man who helped us get through an obstacle that we didn't know could be done. So to Mr. McCauley, thank you, thank you, thank you. We also would like to say thank you to Rap Poet, who was our MC, to the Magic Drum Line, Magic Drum Soul, I believe, or I can't remember their name, but they were wonderful and they were awesome. I would also like to say thank you to the Board of Ed members who helped us during this process, which was Mrs. Burke and Mrs. Barney and Mrs. Dr. Silva. We would also like to say thank you to the principal of SAN, Mrs. McCoy, and to Desiree Primus, our project organizer. I would also like to say thank you to the community members who came out to support. Representative Bobby Gibson gave out proclamations for us, and Lou Brown was one of our speakers. So I just want to say, at this point in time, if you want to see where my money went, please step outside and look up at Sand School. It is there. So once again, to the Board of Ed, I came every month bringing some different kind of news, but today I stand here saying thank you, thank you, thank you, and gratification. Thank you.
Erna Alec.
Hello, my name is Adna Alich, and I have been a student and a resident of Hartford Public Schools in Hartford for my whole life. I'm still very much involved with Hartford by working at Hartford Public Library, Hartford Promise, and as a city commissioner for the Commission of Immigrant and Refugee Affairs. I come today to introduce and request a new change to the calendar. As a Bosnian Muslim who came here as a refugee, my faith and religion is very important to me. However, like many other Muslim immigrant students here, we have a fear and trouble of showing that we are Muslims. Even taking days off for our holidays is something we don't do because we are scared to miss out on our classes or events that have been scheduled during that time. I want to make that change though in our school system where Muslim students feel more welcomed and acknowledged and not feel the need that they have to bend their faith to assimilate. I want to request that two of our major holidays, Eid al-Fitr and Eid al-Adha, become school holidays on our calendar, which entitles to all Hartford Public School students having the day off. Eid al-Fitr is at the end of our holy month of Ramadan, and it's a celebration of breaking of the fast. The day consists of early morning prayers and visiting family and friends. Eid al-Adha is actually coming up on June 29th, with a similar practices. These holiday dates change every year, and it's important now that we acknowledge that the date of these holidays as they will be during the school year, like how Eid al-Fitr was on April 21st this year. Hartford Public Schools has a diverse population of students, many of which are Muslim, especially newly arrived immigrant students. Imagine how much more welcoming we can be when we show our Muslim student population that we know about their holiday, acknowledge it, and give the day off for our schools. Many school districts have already implemented this into their calendar. School districts like Manchester, Bridgeport, and even Fairfield. It won't cost the school anything. It would essentially be like adding a snow day. In fact, it would benefit Hartford Public Schools and bring more interest into our schools when people see how accommodating we are for our students. I understand the school calendar may have already been finalized for the 2023 and 2024 year, but I hope and would like to work with all of you to see this implemented in our 2024 and 2025 school year calendar. And from some quotes from some students, Muslim students who want to see this implemented, Samir Kurtovic, who is going to be a senior next year at SMSA, said, "It's important to have Eid off of the school calendar so Muslim students don't have to stress about their school assignments during a religious holiday." And then Bintu Mansarai, she's a sophomore at Buckley High School, says, "I think schools have should have Eid off because it should be acknowledged since there are lots of other celebrations that schools take the day off. It would make everyone feel involved and included." Thank you for your time.
Abraham Macias.
Hello. Hi again. I'd just like to say hi to you all. Thank you to Hartford Public Schools, to everybody here. It really is an honor and a privilege. My name is Mr. Macias. I'm an AP Stats teacher at a public magnet school in Springfield Public Schools. I'm here asking for everybody's support to help bring me back to this wonderful school and district. If you know me, this is not usually my usual self. In usual times, I keep my head down and I do my job. But these unusual times, I'm here speaking, doing something, pressed on time, so forgive me if it's not perfect. Right now, with so many distractions, I do want to teach you a saying I learned while in New Mexico. A Native American woman once said on the radio, she said, "You can't blame people for not knowing. All you can do is educate them," all right? And this time, my plea from teachers is not just to Hartford Public Schools, but to the city of Hartford, the state of Connecticut, and to our greater United States, that it remain beautiful and strong. They say the biggest pain is heartbreak. They say the biggest stress is when your livelihood is threatened. I wrote these words under duress of both. Heartbroken by the public school system's treatment of brown boys and girls once leaving my hometown, and under threat of livelihood, because when I wrote these words, unemployment had been delayed, pressures were felt, intentional or not, from the city or state. I applied in the summer and didn't receive my unemployment till January, receiving it only after finding my job in Springfield, after evicting a family during the holidays and selling my home. They asked me to say these words. After my grass was cut during winter protection plan, while unemployed, all these pressures, whether intentional or not, have teachers in this nation and a state we're all aware of. Okay? And I say this after being fully aware that the district voice I was threatened by is still in that same building. But I don't blame. Remember, I educate. So please help me bring back to this school. Don't worry, Hartford Public Schools. If you let me continue to speak, I'm speaking of the whole nation. From this stand, leaving brown people out of the conversation, that's the story of my life. Leaving us out, why I gotta be brown? I've heard many people say that it's divisive. Well, from my perspective, it's leaving us out. That's statements like those, not seeing in color, that's what's dividing, all right? And don't worry, I don't blame people for not knowing. I only am asking to continue to educate and teach, like I'm doing in Springfield Public Schools. Just save me the commute. I don't want to bring out problems, but point out solutions. Help me to educate, to teach. Bring me back to teach you all more. You guys don't know what brown is. Let me define it for you. Brown is Asian, Latino, indigenous, some black people, some white, mixed people too, with the common tie of an upbringing in a home with multiple languages. Why does that matter? What does that have to do with Hartford Public Schools? Didn't they tell you that results are in at Weaver High School? Weaver and Kinsella, one roof, two schools. I was here 3 years ago. I have a paper with results. We uplifted the brown people and we uplifted both schools. Exhibit A shows PSAT scores. Not only tripled the numbers, but math and English scores went up. Did you know results are in from this social experiment? One roof and two schools. Keeping out brown people like me will continue to divide, continue to waste, continue pollute. I'm almost done. But don't worry. I'm not like them. Don't be like them. Blaming people for not knowing. Let's continue to educate each other as a team. Right? If you look at Exhibit B, what does it have to do with brown people? Indian girls like my grandmother. My dad told me grandma was a maid that loved white people. So sad, this is her life and her emotions, but explains so much of my own experiences. This same father was punished in public schools for speaking Spanish, sometimes physically. Last I heard, the U.S. doesn't have an official language. And what does it have to do here with Hartford Public Schools? If you look at Exhibit C, it's their words, not mine, that I was let go specifically. Right here, you have consistently demonstrated you are developing needs improvement in Domain 1B, appropriate standards of behavior. You can cut me off when you like. This has $19.99 up to it, dollar signs, made on the physical and moral welfare of these girls. Help me imagine what I can bring to this city.
Thank you. Appreciate your time.
Yolanda Williams.
Good evening. I'm here on a couple of things. This morning when I was watching Channel 3 Scott Haney, and they were saying that y'all was having a meeting down here tonight about y'all hiring a contractor to hire teachers. I was with the impression that that was the principal's job, to hire, to interview. I don't understand why y'all would need a contractor to hire, to go out and look for teachers. The summer is here. Kids are, just about all the schools is gonna be out. I don't understand why the principal don't get busy interviewing these teachers. You understand? I'm a taxpayer. I went through the Hartford school system, and I just don't understand why you have to pay a contractor. And if that contractor is hiring these teachers, how much are they getting paid for hiring these teachers, and do they fall up underneath the Board of Education, or do they fall up underneath this contractor? That's what I want to know. And they need to boost up their curriculum. And they need to stop telling these grandparents that got custody of their grandkids that they can't go to the neighborhood school. They have to sign up for choice. That's wrong. Any child that they go in walking distance to their neighborhood school should be able to go to their neighborhood schools. And this is what they're telling people. I'm not telling you what somebody told me. I'm telling you what I know. And that needs to stop. Because for every child that goes out here that's being bussed out, they have to get up at 5 o'clock in the morning and sleep on that bus going to school. And if I remember, there are a couple of towns that don't even accept Hartford kids. And you want to know why that is? I'm a project concern when it was good. Choice is a lot different. If Suffield had certain empties for certain grades and stuff, then they came to the Hartford Board of Education and they said, you know, you sign your kids up. And then they went, and that's how many kids they have now. You're taking all the money out of Hartford, you're sending it to these surrounding towns. You got 3 and 4 schools in one doggone building, we've included. You know, that needs to stop. You're closing down all our neighborhood schools, every last one of them. We had to fight to get Martin Luther King, the old original Weaver, done because they had took our money and gave it to the South End, which is the old original Buckley. We had to fight in our community to get that school done. I want to know how many up there on the board live in Hartford and went through the Hartford school system. How many? Just you? That's it? You? You two never went to the, and I remember sitting here for a long time waiting for them to decide on, in this very auditorium, waiting for them to decide who they was going to have for superintendent of schools. My concern is, why do you have to have a contractor? That's money that you're, excuse me, pissing away. And who is responsible for them? With my understanding, that the principal is the one that does the hiring, the interviewing. She needs to know who she's hiring, not for what somebody else, and how much is the contractor getting paid on the contract. That's my concern. Let these principals start doing their job. Pay these doggone teachers more money what they're worth. If you have to turn around in each one of these schools and get a student guidebook and revise that with respect, because that starts at home, okay? Because the way I see some of these children acting and teaching and acting in these classrooms is disgusting. On the school buses, even the middle-aged kids throwing, I had to stop the bus driver. They were throwing juice jugs and stuff out the bus. Y'all need some monitors on those buses. You really do. When I was going to school, if you live more than 2 miles, you had a contract with the Connecticut State Transit, and we got bus cards at a discount with our student thing, and we caught the bus. Grown behind young men and women, y'all giving them too much. Oh, and another thing, y'all need to start teaching cursive writing back in school. My grandson graduated from Capital Prep, okay? Turn around, I went to my credit union. I got 2 applications just in case he made a mistake. Because when you go off to college, you don't tell your parents the money that I send you. You understand? Because then they're going to cut what they give you. And then when he turned around there and he printed on his, I said, no, baby. Shema, write your name. He said, I did, Grandma. I said, no, cursive write it. He said, they never taught us that. Are you kidding me? What they supposed to do? Put an X in the box? And these kids don't come home with no homework. Unheard of.
Thank you, ma'am.
These kids need to go back to basic reading, writing, arithmetic.
Thank you, ma'am.
No, I am serious about this because of Isabel Blake, my mother, and Maria Sanchez. None of this stuff will be going down. Trust me.
Thank you, ma'am.
And that concludes public comment.
Thank you. We now move on to the report of the chair. I just want to highlight a few events that board members attended. On May 25th, a few of us attended the Teacher of the Year ceremony, and congratulations to Melanie Zamorski, English language arts teacher at Sports Medical Science Academy, on winning the 2023 Teacher of the Year. On June 5th, Board Member Brody, Board Member Schmerling, and myself attended and ate lunch at Buckley Lower and Upper Schools to see firsthand what our students were experiencing. I'm confident we will find a better path forward as the district looks to incorporate some of the direct student feedback that they received. Later that evening, I also had the opportunity to attend the Connecticut Youth Forum, an evening with Spencer Paysinger, held at Weaver and hosted by Sports Medical Science Academy. Spencer's life story is the inspiration behind the hit TV series All-American. On June 7th, board members attended the 2023 High School Spring Showcase at the Bushnell Center for Performing Arts. We were able to see amazing work happening in Hartford schools. On June 5th, I attended the pre-summer wrap-up session at Martin Luther King Middle School, hosted by Pastor Johnson and his other hat as a community activist. And we had a chance to join a panel and speak to 8th graders as they look to enter high school, sharing personal stories and hopefully some inspiration. On June 10th, board members also attended the summer reading kickoff at Hopkins Library at Sand School that included the unveiling of the mural of the late Mayor Carrie Saxon Perry. We also had the privilege to attend a few graduations with more to come. It is amazing to see the accumulation of our students, teachers, and staff's hard work. And congratulations to all those graduated seniors in the class of 23. This is also a bittersweet announcement. I want to take a moment to recognize the work of Dr. Madeline Negrone, our acting deputy superintendent of academics, who has recently been appointed as superintendent of New Haven Public Schools. I congratulate Dr. Negrone on this incredible, well-deserved accomplishment and know that she will work tirelessly on behalf of all students in New Haven. just like as she has done for our students here in Hartford. Those who are fortunate enough to know and work with Dr. Negron know her as an advocate for all children with a credible work ethic and unwavering determination. We are all sad to see Dr. Negron go, but we are proud to know that she was part of our district for many years and that Hartford Public School produces leaders that are ready and capable of making a difference in the lives of children everywhere. Also, I would like to congratulate Chief Phil Penn, who has accepted a position as CFO at a school district in North Carolina and will be relocating with his family. Thank you for all your hard work and helping the board navigate through the budget. Lastly, I will continue to provide reminders at every board meeting that you could find full committee reports as well as all attachments to videos in the meeting agenda on board docs. All committee and workshop meetings are live streamed as well as viewable after the meeting. The YouTube links are saved in each meeting agenda on board docs. I encourage the community to view the meetings and read the reports when possible. If you have any questions or feedback, please contact Christina Santiago, our board liaison, at csantiago@hartfordschools.org. We now move on to the report of the superintendent.
Thank you, and I echo your commentary around reports being accessible. My report is also accessible, and updates are aligned to all of our priorities. Today I'll focus on just two updates. One is a recurring update around our attendance, and Ms. Santiago, if you can, thank you. So I just wanted to report that the positive momentum does continue as we near the end of the school year. We have 1,750 students who were chronically absent that are no longer listed as chronically absent. And so these are students that are attending school more regularly since this time last year. And you just see there an overview of how we have tracked throughout the months. As we continue to look forward to next year, working with the team not only at the central office, our attendance culture and engagement team at the central office, but also across our schools. We will continue to lift the importance of attendance and the reduction of chronic absenteeism, specifically focusing on areas that you see here on the screen. We're expanding our mentoring program pilot to include 3 schools. The district's disengagement protocol uses a research-based scale to identify the cause of why students are school avoidant and how it is that we can re-engage these students with very targeted supports and interventions. And we will continue to use those targeted strategies to support disengaged students through collaboration with our families and caregivers, community partners, and supporting a strong culture and climate. Just to give a more detailed overview, this is just a view across the grades of those students who were chronically absent last year and are no longer chronically absent, and we can see that across all grades we've been able to decrease that number. In terms of home visits, we know that this is one prong of a multi-pronged approach, and so this year 5,600 home visits have been completed compared to the almost 4,500 last year. And then some celebrations. Betances Learning Lab in Naylor will be competing for the finals of the Home Run Derby. We do have some schools who have chronic absenteeism rates below 20%. That's Betances STEM, Renzulli, Naylor, University High, and Montessori Magnet at Fisher. And then you see there listed at the bottom several other schools that have met or exceeded their ESSA targets. And so we, again, congratulate all of our schools and our leaders and their respective teams for focusing on the student, the root causes behind the absences, and providing the supports that are necessary. And Ms. Santiago, if we can just shift over to the next couple of slides. And just wanted to take a moment to, as we come to the end of the year, celebrate some of the efforts as to renovating our schools, right? This is in collaboration with the City of Hartford. We will continue the work to renovate or bring to close out 13 projects, and in the next slide is an overview and I'll just give you some of the highlights here. We do have 2 projects that are pending closeout. That's Weaver and Kinsella's closeout is pending as we wait the results of an independent review of the Weaver fire alarm system. And then MLK and Breakthrough North, there was a change order review in process by the state's Office of School Construction and Grant Review. We also have projects in the construction phase at this moment. That's Burns and Harvard Pre-K, as well as Buckley High and the administrative offices. And the challenge there with Buckley High and that construction project was the supply chain issues and escalating project costs that impacted the schedule. And then schematic designs, by that we mean architects rendering developed based on the space programming specifications and the standards are for Betances, Wish, and Connelly. Those have been completed, and currently the project team, they're in the process of reconciling the design with project costs. And then lastly, well, second to last, we have the next 3 projects is Elam's McDonough in Parkville. They received legislative approval during this last legislative session. The next step is for the City of Hartford through the school building committee to go out for requests for proposals for program managers to oversee those projects. And then lastly, the applications for Sand, Sanchez, and Montessori at Batchelder are in progress. The approval to accept the educational specifications and submit those grant applications is on the agenda today. The deadline for that is June 30th, and we'll continue to share, the projects as they're reimbursable for City of Hartford at 95% based on that special legislation that is only applicable to us as a school district and as a city. That concludes my report.
Thank you. I want to see if there's any comments or questions from my colleagues as it relates to the superintendent's report. Board Member Brody.
I have two items. Couple questions, one comment. One comment is I was made aware that in September we'll get the constituent report that is, due to us as a board by policy. My ask is if we could please revert back to when we used to get that presented to us at this last of the school year meeting for a couple reasons. One being we do have community entities that wish to assist our community, even though everyone is not a partner of us, maybe in writing, they are partnering with us in the community. And receiving that constituents report in June, which just entails basically through the Welcome Center, all the it'll report the complaints, the concerns, what workshops they gave, all the things that we've done with families and for students. It helps the community know what happened that school year. It helps them to even plan what they can assist and provide to our families in the summer, how they can plan for the fall. So for us to get it in September, that's when we're already going to be into the next school year. But I really did appreciate not so much sitting up here. I may have received one, but being a part of the community, every year when Martha Bentham presented that report, it was very helpful because it let us know our strengths and it let us know our concerns that related directly to families. So I'll wait for it in September, but even if it's about collecting data, just give us what's available through May 31st. So that is my thing on the constituents report. The other is, Madam Superintendent mentioned the Weaver fire alarm. So my concern there, I don't know, as a board, I know we have board members that represent us on the school building committee, But at this time, I feel like is a disconnect with us, in particularly learning and knowing about what's going on with the Weaver fire alarm. One of the questions I did ask, it was an independent engineering firm that's going to look at the plans and the specs and the documents, the drawings and all of that to determine if we received what we're supposed to have here in this building that we're sitting in now in relation to fire alarm. But I asked specifically, could you give me what you gave to the engineer? Because if there's one thing I know is the design specs and what fire alarm and the systems that was filed with the city of Hartford. What was sent to them was everything that had nothing. So I'll just keep it short. If it was not filed with the city of Hartford, why are we sending this firm those things? The only thing they need to know is what was filed with the city, what was supposed to go in this building with us as a board, where we said, yep, you giving us that system. That is what the engineer should have received. But instead, it received specs that never was filed at the city. So if it's not filed at the city, it should never go in the building. And that was clear. This has been talked about over and over again. And I just think at this point is a delay to get to the final conclusion that in this building, trust me, we do not have what was approved by this board. We do not have what was filed with the city with licensing and inspections. And we're delaying a process and we're pretending. So I don't know how us as a board, if we could have a meeting, because I know we don't have the school facilities meetings anymore. So I don't know, do we just have them? And I know we agreed that we would have meetings as necessary, because I think it's just like a runaway train at this point, that no one wants to admit a mistake was made and we need to correct it. Instead, we're acting like a mistake wasn't made and we're just making up meetings, sending stuff to independent people, and it's actually going on way too long. So as a board, I'm hoping that we can step back into that space, because it's absolutely ridiculous at this point. It's absolutely ridiculous. In no other school, and I'll end with this, no other school that has been constructed before Weaver, that's been renovated before Weaver and after Weaver, no other school does not have what is in this school. The ability in classrooms to communicate directly into the classroom. There's an active shooter in the building, like specific to the classroom. They are not in our classrooms. They're in our classrooms at MLK. There's in our classroom at Capitol Prep. They're even in the offices in the mayor's office. They're in the offices they're all through the safety complex with the fire department. Everywhere has it, but Weaver High School doesn't. And we filed with the construction manager filed with the city of Hartford that Weaver High School would have it. It didn't go in here because the mistake was made, but nobody wants to own the mistake and nobody wants to correct it. It's not good for the students and the staff and everyone that is in this building, specifically because if you ever tried to make a phone call in Weaver High School, you'll be lucky to get a reception. So we don't want to look back and have a serious regret on the lives of everyone that walks through this building day in and day out. Trust me, we do not have what we were supposed, and it's not our fault. It's not our COO fault. It's not Hartford Public Schools' fault, because we hire a construction manager to make it happen. We don't look behind them. We trust them. We pay them. But what was bought by Arnold Verisami, bought to this meeting, told us, and we're not really getting to that issue. We didn't get what we paid for. We don't have what these lives in this building deserve, and we have to step in and do something about it, because it's absolutely ridiculous at this point. Thank you.
Board Member Walker.
Yeah, Mr. Chair, I appreciate Board Member Brody. I appreciate your passion on this issue. But at the end of all that, she did bring up a statement of fact. So I guess whether through amendment or I'm going to give it to you, Mr. Chair. I mean, she's asserting that something was requested for the school that is actually not here. So can we take an action to actually have that actually validated? There was a plan submitted. There ought to be a way to factually check.
A point of order. Are there any questions as it relates to the superintendent's report?
As it relates to superintendent's report, I don't have additional comment. I'm indulging you on the issue of Ms. Brody's comments. And if I need to make a motion on that, I will. But I think that what I'm asserting is she's just making a statement of fact. And so if there's, all I'm saying is a statement of fact is something that can actually be ascertained.
Correct.
I'm suggesting that we actually just take at least that action to determine what actually was filed around this particular item and what actually is here. And that's it.
Thank you. We now move on to the business agenda, 4.1. Item 4.1, approval of revised district calendar for 2023-2024. Motion that the Hartford Board of Education approve the revised 23-24 district calendar allowing Juneteenth as a student holiday. Furthermore, the Hartford Board of Education directs that the superintendent explore and research making Juneteenth a district holiday for all staff and report back to the Board of Education. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second. Second.
Superintendent?
Yes, just to reiterate that Juneteenth, as it relates to this agenda item, was signed into federal law on June 17th, 2021, and to Connecticut law on May 27, 2022, effective the following year. Public Act 22-128 does not include language that the day is a mandatory day off for students. The language states that schools may be held on the holiday, and if so, if schools are held, that there be a suitable non-sectarian educational program in observance of such holiday. As a board, you have indicated a desire to make this a student holiday, and for further exploration into making it a district holiday for all staff as well, as for administration to potentially engage with our collective bargaining units around this. And so as a board, there was the adoption of the 23-24 calendar at our April 2023 meeting, and now taking a vote to amend it, adding Juneteenth as a student holiday.
Are there any questions? And for those online, we do have board member Francois Ledger participating via Zoom. Thank you, Ms. Santiago. The motion on the floor is that the Hartford Board of Education approve the revised 2023-2024 district calendar adding Juneteenth as a student holiday. and that the Hartford Board of Education directs the superintendent to explore and research making Juneteenth a district holiday for all staff and report back to the Board of Education. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Any nays? Any nays? Abstentions? The ayes have it, the motion moves. Moving on to item 4.2, contract approval, ESS. Motion that the Hartford Board of Education authorizes the superintendent to execute a contract with ESS for the term outlined in the contract ending June 30th of 2024 at the amount not to exceed $2,514,611. Do I have a motion? A second? Do I have a second?
Second.
Superintendent?
Yes. So in order to recruit, hire exceptional educators to Hartford Public Schools and to continue efforts to diversify our talent, the district has to source candidates using a variety of approaches, and there is, as we know, not one size fits all. So our team leverages our district data and workforce best practices to create and employ equity-based recruitment strategies to ensure that our staff, that we hire staff, we work on retaining and then also having a lasting and positive impact on students and their learning. As we know that in addition to the teacher shortage that we are facing, we're also experiencing shortages of support staff, specifically special education paraeducators and substitute teachers. So over the last year, we have had an average of 79 special education paraeducator vacancies per month. The substitute teacher fill rate for this same time period averages at about 15%. These roles are essential to the success of our students as we're working on preparing classroom activities, working with students individually in small groups, supporting with individualized programming for our students with disabilities, managing classroom behavior, engaging with parents and communities. And so as I call Dr. Curtis to join us, the Office of Talent Management is proposing this initial one-year contract with ESS. They are a leading provider of full-service substitute personnel and management solutions to K-12 school districts to support with recruiting, identifying, screening, managing special education paraeducators and substitute teachers. I'll ask Dr. Curtis to speak to the very focused approach for 10 schools and why those 10 schools were identified to receive this specific extra support. And I will also highlight that our team in the Office of Talent Management will continue to all our efforts to not only recruit, retain, support staff, and that includes, for example, making sure that we have our pipeline work that we're doing, our growing our own programming, where non-certified pathways to certification, Relay Graduate School of Education, the Buckley High School Public Service Pathway, educator prep programs and partnerships with our universities and alternate route to certification. Our local outreach will continue, recruitment in Connecticut towns, community partnerships, employee referral bonuses, sign-on bonuses, recruitment beyond Connecticut, right, to our HBCUs, regional enhanced reciprocity. All of those things will continue. This is an opportunity for us to, and I'll have Dr. Curtis speak to continuing to expand on all of the recruitment efforts so that we can get support staff to our students.
And Dr. Curtis, before you answer that, I'm not sure Superintendent or Dr. Curtis, just for public consumption, can you please make the distinction between ESS and ESS? Right? So there's two ESSs here, and I think there might be some confusion with what we're talking about here on this agenda item.
Yes, so Effective School Solutions, ESS is the ESS that we have been familiar with, and they provide students that need behavioral, social, emotional supports at the highest tiers of intervention. that is a New Jersey-based company. This ESS is based out of Tennessee. It is a partner with 900 districts, and specifically in Connecticut, the districts include, for example, Waterbury Public Schools, Bristol Public Schools, and Norwalk Public Schools, specifically for substitute teachers, paraprofessionals, paraeducators, and long-term substitutes.
Thank you. Dr. Curtis, is there anything else that you'd like to add?
Yes, thank you so much for the opportunity to come before the board with this contract. It's important to note that in the Office of Talent Management, we have recruiters, and our recruiters are broken up for certified staff and non-certified staff. So we have a dedicated person on our team who works to source talent for non-certified positions. But these non-certified positions go beyond paras and substitute teachers. These are all of our non-certified positions in the district. However, we know that of all of our non-certified positions, the two most critical are substitute teachers and paraeducators in terms of helping us start the school year with our classrooms fully staffed. So although we've created incentives to bring in more paraeducators and incentives to bring in more substitutes, we went this whole year with a tremendous amount of vacancies in both the para sector and with substitutes. So when we look to see how can we work really hard this summer to make sure that we can open the school year with an adult in every classroom, we sought to partner with some experts. ESS, from our research and speaking with other districts, is a partnership that will create local context for sourcing talent and for hiring. So when we partner with ESS, our goal is to source talent directly from the greater Hartford area. So our subs would come from the Hartford area and our paras would come from the Hartford area. And what's important to note is that if a substitute is brought in or a paraeducator is brought in, they are paid the exact same rate as a substitute would be if we were to hire them directly, or a paraeducator. There is no differential in what the pay is. Our relationship with ESS would be set up where for the first 3 months of the employment, ESS, we would pay a surcharge of 31% over the cost of the salary of the para or the sub, and that cost is associated with what it costs to go out and source to run informational sessions. And when we talk about sourcing talent, we're talking about ESS specialty is going into communities and getting people into the workforce. So these are people in the neighborhoods that might not even necessarily know they wanted to be a para, or retired teachers that they're pulling back into the sub pool to come back into the district. So the cost to us after 3 months is just the cost of that salary, because we will convert them to HPS employees. That is the whole goal, is to fill the sub gap and the para gap with our own employees. So that is very important to know. The surcharge we're paying is for them to source the talent and bring them into the district over 90 days to stabilize that employment so that we can convert them into HPS employees.
Thank you. Looking to my colleagues to see if they have any questions. Board Member Walker.
Thank you. Dr. Curtis, I'm looking at the ESS proposal. They say employee retention to ensure consistency. In their plan, they said they're going to have weekly pay, 401k, retirement. They said that they're going to offer health insurance, life. They said that they're going to have incentives and dedicated support staff. Now, today, HBS, do you offer substitutes that you hire? Do you offer them 401k? Do you offer them health insurance when they come? Do you offer them life insurance when they come? Do you offer them dedicated support staff?
So we have a collective bargaining agreement that we just negotiated recently. And in the collective bargaining agreement, for example, around healthcare, what has been bargained for is that our substitutes after 120 days of service are provided health insurance with Hartford Public Schools. So there are benefits in the bargaining agreement. And when you talk about like dedicated staff, OTM is the Office of Support for hiring and benefits, but that would be for any employee in the district. So the benefits that the substitute teachers get are not determined by the Office of Talent Management. They're determined by the collective bargaining agreement, which the members have bargained for.
So the answer is no. The answer is no.
There are benefits that substitute teachers
A new substitute teacher, is that substitute teacher going to get health care when they work for the district?
After 120 days of service, they qualify for health care, yes.
Okay. So for the record, substitute teachers hired by Harvard Public Schools will see no health care for 120 days, or 120 days of working for the district. Now, ESS is offering these benefits. I'm focusing on here. The other thing is your staff said that you hired 169 substitute teachers in the year 2021 to 2022. You hired 169 substitute teachers. That doesn't sound to me like an organization that has trouble recruiting teachers. Would you agree?
I think it's out of context because it's not in proportion of the openings that we have. So 169 may seem like a lot, but when we look across our cluster of school, or all of our schools in the district, our landscape of schools, and we look at the amount of teacher vacancies we have, that's one thing. But when we also look at the amount of teachers who call out, because, I mean, the fact is we have classrooms that have been unstaffed, which means that the teachers who are in those schools have to cover those classrooms. So there's a level of burnout, there's a level of dissatisfaction with the workload, because we haven't been able, even though we were able to hire 169, we were not able to staff every single classroom. So, so although that sounds like a lot, it wasn't enough for the amount of need that we have. And then keep in mind that every single day, staff members call out of work, and there are some schools where they have a higher percentage of staff that call out daily, which is how we got to the 10 schools that we would seek to place the most amount of subs in, because we want to give those schools relief also because they have daily vacancies due to call-outs.
Thank you. I agree. I just want to emphasize for the record that you hired 169 teachers, substitute teachers, in a year and a half. Now, we're going to offer to ESS upwards to $2+ million to hire 180 staff. Probably won't cover every need we have either. I'm just saying for 180 staff, they're going to get over $2 million if they achieve it.
That's incorrect.
How?
That's not correct. So you're considering the cost to pay the actual substitutes. So the substitutes are getting the salary, and what the 31% over their salary is not $2 million. So that money includes the actual salary to paraeducators and substitute teachers, which is already budgeted for because we have those positions already identified in our budget.
I stand corrected. You're absolutely correct. You're going to pay a price premium of 30% to hire 180 staff. You hired 169 staff at no cost. What I'm trying to emphasize is the challenge that we have in the district is keeping the staff. The one thing that ESS is guaranteeing is that they're going to offer benefits and other incentives to keep the staff. And all I'm trying to illustrate here is that the problem in Hartford Public Schools is retention. We do not have a problem recruiting. I think there was some agitation in the comments tonight because No one believes that somehow we need to pay a company from Tennessee to come sit in Hartford and to hire Hartford residents to work in our local schools. The secret sauce is ESS is offering them benefits and other incentives to stay on the job. I'm only putting on the table to say, ultimately, we need to figure out right here in Hartford how to offer incentives to our own local folks so they will stay on the job. I just want to emphasize here, we're hiring them under the umbrella that they have some recruiting magic. They don't. They have retention incentives and benefits. Would you agree, Dr. Curtis?
I would not respectfully agree with that statement. I would say that in OTM, I feel like, have done a great job of recruiting, but we have not sourced enough talent. We just haven't. We opened the school year last year, I believe, with 96 classroom vacancies. That means 96 classrooms didn't have a teacher on the first day of school, and we didn't have enough subs to go around. That's factual. Every day we have para vacancies. Every day of the school year we have para vacancies. So OTM is respectfully saying we need help in sourcing talent. We do. And then, like I said before in our committee meeting, I believe two things can be true at the same time. And I do agree with you that we have to work on recruiting. I'm sorry, on retention. And that we are. So we agree that retention is a key lever in us not having so many vacancies. So yes, we are working on retention, which is more of a systemic, it cuts across the entire system. But when we think about recruitment and filling positions, that is so OTM specific. And we're saying even with our best effort, we have gone to other districts. ESS didn't just fall out the sky to us. The superintendent said, like, what else should we be doing? We have a person, like I said, who only focuses on non-certified positions. She went out and said, this is what other districts are doing. This is how they're partnering to staff in subs and para vacancies. And that's what we're bringing before you.
Thank you, Dr. Curtis, for that. I would like to move to my colleague, Board Member Escobar, and then followed by, Ms. Ashley, Board Member Brody, followed by Escobar.
So a few questions. First, could we clarify the 2.5 million? Because if that number is not what we're paying, if it's not strictly the contract amount that we're paying ESS, I don't understand that number.
Thank you. So if we pay a substitute, if their daily rate was $100, we would incur that cost to employ that substitute. For the first 3 months through ESS, we would incur a cost of $131 per day. But that substitute that came to us, OTM, would have just received from ESS. So for the first 90 days of that employment, the cost to us is $31 per day for 90 days. That would be the surcharge for that particular employee. When that employee then is converted to an HPS employee, they still are making the same daily rate. They're not making any more or any less with ESS. They would be making the same rate. So the cost of the contract is, and if they source no talent for us, then we pay nothing. For every one person that they send to us, it is 31% over what that person's daily rate would have been, whether they're a para or whether they're a sub. And so I apologize for the confusion. We took the cost of employment for I believe it's 60 subs and 40 paras, so that 100, we kind of costed it out. So that 2.5 is like if they gave us all 100 plus the salaries of those folks plus the 31%. So if we would have just broken out the 31%, that would have been the cost of the contract. So I apologize for that confusion.
So just to clarify, believe, Superintendent, you have some points that you would like to share?
This is, if I can also explain it another way, perhaps, as well. So we see that the maximum cost for the contract is 2.5, which includes compensation of those employees' salaries. So essentially, Dr. Curtis, the cost of the contract is maxed at would you say $750,000, which represents the services provided by ESS to staff, substitute teachers, and paraeducators. The difference, the 1.7 million, represents salaries of those essential positions, which we would have to pay anyway. They're a part of our budget, and so those, so the $750,000 is warranted to add the capacity that we need and the staffing that we need.
Correct.
Is that another way of?
Yes, at the low end, the contract would cost us $204,600. At the high end, if they gave us all 100 positions, it would cost us $779,529. I also want to note, let's just say at the very high end, for about $780,000, we would have 100 additional employees in the district filling gaps that we haven't been able to fill, particularly the para position. I mean, well, the sub positions are critical too. So that would be the cost to the district.
So I have a few more questions. A clarifying question, which was brought up somewhere else that I asked, was that currently we have because it was brought up in committee that the staff that ESS is going to find, they're going to have degrees, but I need to ask on the record, when did we accept a high school diploma for a substitute teacher? I was told that's how it always was. I know it was a lie because I was a substitute teacher for 4 years, and I had to have a bachelor's degree. That was a requirement. A community member who I haven't spoken to in a very long time called me outraged because she was like, someone with a high school diploma can just cover our class. That was not, I know it wasn't. I had to have a bachelor's degree and I had to have a recommendation from a principal. Those were the two items I was told. So I want to know, when did that change?
Thank you for that question. So I'm going to answer it in part because I don't have the when did that change date, but I can get that for you because I can tell you how we got there though. So the state has that flexibility, right? Hartford Public Schools had the standard of you had to have a certain level of degree to be a sub in our district. That wasn't per the state though. So especially given the pandemic and given all of the challenges with staffing, we went back and looked at our restrictive practices and we adopted the state practices so that we could have access to a larger workforce.
But when we did that, what we did not do, because I'm very perplexed, like I'm struggling with this contract for two reasons. My day job, I work with families every day, and the main thing is the families with IEPs that say their child is supposed to have a one-on-one support and they do not have the one-on-one support. So looking at it monetarily and looking at it in a sense of why wouldn't we take this up, like the high end of 700,000, why wouldn't we take that and hire you more people to be your staff, and we can assure that that position can be filled, we can fund it for a couple years with, for 2 people and recruit and have our own employees. I'm a working families party candidate. I gotta acknowledge that. I hear from families and I hear from staff. Those two are guaranteed. So I'm looking for us to have our own staff to get the benefits that Mr. Walker is pointing out that ESS is providing on day one. So I'm so conflicted in this contract because they're gonna be like, you are an IEP saying and PPT saying where they one-on-one para. So you voted against. So I'm struggling. But we have to get to a point where we have our own employees. I am not a fan of sourcing out. I am a fan of using an organization that is going to help us get past where we need to be, right? We got to get past this. But we can't look ridiculous in saying, I like the old Hartford Public, because it set a standard. You have to have a bachelor's degree. You got to have had some college experience and completed something to be in front of my kid. But at the same time, we never changed the paraprofessional. We did say it was a requirement that they have an associate's degree. We did say you can still be working towards that, but you had to at least complete 1 year. That's our current thing, 1 course in college and be working towards an associate degree. But that's a paraprofessional that's always under the direction of a teacher. But we let a substitute teacher that's leading a class just have a high school diploma. So when we decrease that standard, and because we are in desperate times, we should have looked at the paraprofessionals. So I guess the only question I would have is, what guarantees do we have? We're saying 90 days we're trying to get them to be our employee. Is there a guarantee that when you're signing up with them, that's the expectation or something? Because in every sector of this school system, we're a district of people who just come here. They'll have their innovative everything, and they'll be from everywhere, from Florida, everywhere. They build their resume using our kids and our system, and they trot along to do what they want. We're resume builders. We have to get away from that. So I hope within your office that we're looking and we're promoting from within. We know people in our district that's been here forever. They're committed to this school system. They work their way up from position to position. And when we hire a principal, when we hire people with these big titles, we aren't looking at those people. We're bringing in people from everywhere, and those people leave us. They leave us holding the bag, and they leave our kids at a disadvantage because we don't have committed people that's staying here. We have people with longevity in this school system. Some should retire, and they like, well, if they leave, is no one to replace them. We have to do a better job in talent management of looking at the talent that's dedicated to Hartford and promoting from within. That's why when principals come, if I didn't work with that principal, if they wasn't my kid principal, if I don't know the person, I don't vote. I abstain because I don't know you, because what the track record has shown here with my 5 years sitting here, they come and they leave every single time. I can't name one, is maybe 1 or 2, but they come. Oh, I'm from New York. I'm from East St. Louis. I'm from Georgia. I'm from everywhere. We give them these positions, great positions, and they leave us. So back to my question, I'm sorry. So what is the ask and the hope of those that we are recruiting for these very critical positions?
First of all, can I just say thank you for your transparency about being conflicted over this. I appreciate that. I want to say that I agree with you. When OTM came and asked for a contract with TNTP last year, they built capacity in our department. That work we're still doing, but without TNTP, because we needed an injection of of expertise to help right size us, right? We got trained up on some stuff. We don't need TNTP anymore. I would say that if we hired additional FTEs in OTM, it takes us time to get ramped up, to train people. That takes time. What we're seeking with ESS is to bring in some experts that are experts in sourcing local talent. So when you talk about people being from here and sticking around and having longevity, that is our strategy, right? So we get people, we bring in some experts, we get them in the local area, we get our talent straight from here, but we've been very clear with ESS, and I have them here. We've been very clear, and I want to say when we met with them, we met with every executive on their team, and I was very clear. We are not interested in partnering just for the sake of you, of us paying you for talent. We are seeking to employ more Hartford residents as paras and substitute teachers. Now, if we said to ESS, and by the way, the majority of the subs, we want them to have bachelor's degrees. We can say that. If we say to them, the majority of our paras, we want them to have this level of academic, we can say that to them, and that's how they would source the talent, right? So we feel like this year, we need them because we need help. We don't want to start the school year again with vacancies. Now, also I want to say, how do we know it'll work? If it doesn't cost us anything. If they don't send us one person, it does not cost us one penny, and I don't have a problem with that, right? But that's not what we want. We want to get as many people as possible. We want to relieve stress at 10 schools. That's why we're only doing 10 schools. And we want to be able to say to those 10 schools, did this help? How did this, what was the capacity of these subs and pairs that we brought in? In the 90 days that they, came in, are they ready to move into HPS employees where they will stick and they will stay around for the remainder of the school year? Like, this is all part of our strategy, right? If it works at those 10 schools, then we can move on to the rest of our district.
Thank you. Board Member Escobar.
Thank you, Chair. Good evening.
Good evening.
How are you?
Fine, thank you.
So I agree with my colleagues, but I want to change this just a little bit, this conversation, step away from the financing just a bit, okay? So on average, right, last year we had 79 special education paraeducators vacancies per month, 79, right, per month on average. So I want to make clear to the public, and right now, to your point earlier, if we don't get anything, we don't pay anything. Also, this is a one-year contract. It's a pilot. For me, I like pilots because we get to figure out what works and what works and what doesn't work, right? So I agree. So since COVID, throughout the entire nation, there's been huge shortages for teachers, paraeducators, everything. And right now, unfortunately, we are still in, even though some people don't want to admit it, we're still in recovery phase. We're still playing catch up, especially in our educational systems. Let's be real about that, right? There's still huge gaps. And for me, I think this is one way, a pilot program that we can figure out how can we get more people within our community. And that's my biggest thing, right? I was born and raised in Hartford. I'm a product of the school systems. I want people from my community to be in those classrooms who are they have degrees. I agree with you. They should have a bachelor's, 100%, right? So my question to you, my first question is, explain to me the strategy in getting these residents from Hartford and Greater Hartford. What's your strategy, your marketing, or just high level? How are you going to attract and get these people from our community?
Can I invite our partner in to answer that?
I do. I want to hear. Yes.
Hi, thank you for having me here. Nui Tran, Director of Business Development for ESS. To answer your question, we, as Dr. Curtis was saying, we have 11 districts in Connecticut right now. So Connecticut is one of our most successful state in New England, and I cover New England. So our strategy for marketing and to recruit, retain talent for you is within the community. So as small as your basketball events, like your homecoming, all those events, soccer, just a local library. I mean, in Waterbury alone, when we first partnered with them, they needed over 500 staff per day, substitute, and they had about 20. Within less than a year, we are now doing over 200 per day for them. So there is, we all know that there's a huge shortage, and so the need is there. And then also, I want to point out to the finance part of it, right? And I feel like we're gonna beat this to death, right? But if, let's say this is approved and you guys sign the contract today, you do not pay us anything until we place you positioned.
Yep.
So if that is 30 days, 60 days, 90 days, 6 months, you do not pay us anything. Also, for retaining, we partner with the district. We don't just come in and hire you people and then just throw them in there. We train, we have a whole team. Our company only focus with K through 12. We don't source for anything else, so that is our specialty. That is all we do. And if you spoke to other vendors, they do multiple areas. We do not. So we help train day 1, day 90, 60 days out, a year out, continuous training. We have multiple touch points, surveys to keep them coming back. And then also with the degree, we only follow the state and the district guideline. So if you came to us and said, we are so in desperate need of people and we need you to just find us anyone, we will do that. Down south, that's what we do. But here in Connecticut, New Jersey, what have you, we follow your guidelines. And if you need associates or a bachelor, that's what we source for.
Right, thank you. My other question is, right, and I know the superintendent and her team did their due diligence in doing research and figuring all of that out. But again, indulge me and our public. When I look at another district similar to Hartford, Waterbury, or Bridgeport, right, you said you work with 11 districts in Connecticut. Similar to Hartford, right, explain to me the success rates of this. You just provided a quick snippet, but explain to me how long you've worked with Waterbury or New Haven, or whatever you want to use as an example, and the success rate, how many teachers you were able to get from the local area, how many of them stood past those 3 months, if you can just explain those success rates.
Yep, so Waterbury alone, if you were to reach out to the superintendent today or the assistant superintendent of HR, Juan, we've doubled their numbers within a year. And they couldn't even be more thrilled. And same thing, right? Waterbury is similar to Hartford. Waterbury has 35 schools. You guys have 39. Rural area, very multilingual and all that stuff, right? All the great stuff. And I'm multilingual, right? And so when we source within the community, and our retention rate is very high. And I can't give you that number because on the top of my head, I can't remember. But the success of that is because we do it internally within the community. And it's one of those things that a lot of districts will ask us, well, if New Haven's down the road, will you source for them? The answer is yes, we can, because we want to get you folks, right? But we try to stay within the community and get them more involved so they can stay. Because as Dr. Curtis stated before, some folks want to teach, but they don't have an avenue of how to get there, and that's where they come to us.
Great. Yeah.
I want to add that we did speak to the assistant superintendent, and the district indicated that they were very pleased with the service. So, like I said, we did a lot before we brought them to the table to have conversations.
Great, and I want to make clear, I hope you don't think that I was saying you didn't. So one last comment. I just want to reiterate from my end. It's a 1-year contract. We don't use it, you don't staff, we don't pay. That sounds like a good deal to me personally. In addition to that, shortages throughout the entire nation. One of my priorities, and I know my board members feel the same way, is making sure our students not only get one-to-one paraeducators for their services, but also having each classroom staffed with adults. And we're end of the summer, it's 3.5 months, summer off. It seems like a long time, but it really isn't. The new school year is coming, and the last thing I want is for our classrooms to be empty. So if we can work with an organization like you to help fill in those gaps immediately and within 3.5 months, I'm all for it. And then you learn within your team, working hand in hand together, what strategies did you use? Oh, you went to the basketball court. Oh, you went to the NRZ meetings, or whatever it is. I think this is an opportunity for OTM to learn some of your strategies and in terms of recruiting. So I just want to make that clear. And there are certain things that, sure, it's not perfect. No contract is ever perfect. But for me, the priority are the students right now and getting teachers in the classrooms. I support this.
Thank you.
And can I note that the state of Connecticut right now has 1,300 para vacancies, and so we just want to disrupt this cycle in Hartford.
Thank you. Board Member Ledger, I see your hands up.
Yes, thank you so much. I have a question with regards to the you doubled the numbers, by with regards to the staff that was hired. because of your service. Was that in Waterbury, you stated?
Yes.
So my question is, of that, the numbers that you doubled, what was the percentage of Black teachers or Black staff that you were able to hire?
Yep, so actually Dr. Curtis and her team asked us the same question, and I don't have a specific percentage, but what I can tell you is my team, and I go back to this, we work within your community. So we hire, if you have for example, in Manchester, Connecticut, there's a lot of Indian populations, Balinese. So we hire those folks. So they will, the students will say, well, she looks like me or he looks like me. So it's a wonderful question. So back to what I was saying before, we hire within the community to have what your community represent.
Thank you. So I have a follow-up question, if you don't mind. So I understand that you're stating that you hire, within the community. Has there been a community with the majority of Black and brown people? And if so, what community was that? What district was that? And what was the percentage of Black and brown teachers that you hired or staff?
Yep, so the same thing, I go back to Manchester, Connecticut and Waterbury. We always try to source for best talent, right? So if you're requiring a bachelor's degree and I'm Asian, right? And I go for the job interview and I don't have all the credential, I might not look at myself for that particular position. I might save myself for something else. But if another person have all that criteria, we're going to hire that person because that's what we're trying to do is source the best talent for your district. Did that answer your question?
Not really. The thing is, the minority teacher recruitment and retention is a very hot topic right now. And me, for example, I'm a teacher. I'm a Black teacher, and I've been teaching for a good number of years now. And, it breaks my heart when I see, very few teachers that look like me, that look like, not just that look like me, but that look like the students that they're teaching, that are being taught. So I'm just looking to see if, how can we, pretty much kill two birds with one stone with regards to the, recruitment and hiring, but also being intentional about the hiring and recruitment process of, getting teachers who look like the students so that these students can have a connection and also thrive in the community, in their schools.
So I'll respond by saying this is exactly why we chose this particular talent sourcing agency, is because they don't recruit from where their parent company is. They literally send someone into our district, Hartford Public Schools, and they literally meet with our team, OTM. They have to stay closely connected with us, and then they go out into our community and source the talent. So that's important to us because our community reflects the students who are in our schools. So we've been very clear with ESS that we are trying to kill two birds with one stone. Want to diversify our workforce with employees who look like our children.
Thank you. So I do want to move forward with this. I do have a couple of comments. First and foremost, thank you for coming and presenting today and answering all our questions. I think the discussion here was very robust. I will tell you, as I look at the contract, at least in my mind, the work makes sense. Kind of the direction that we want to go makes sense. I do think that the language might be a little confusing for public consumption. We'll take the vote as is, but I would tell you that I will look for the board to reconvene very quickly with more revised and detailed language that actually specifies what we're talking about from the finance perspective. I think it gets a little confusing when you talk about the 700 and then the 1.3, it's kind of lumped in all together, and I think that's confusing a lot of people. So I say that to say I'm not going to vote in favor tonight, but it's with the pretense of I think the language just needs to be a little sharper, and look to bring this back very quickly. I think this is the work that needs to be done. I like the fact that there is a glide path from ESS back into our district, and it's coming from people from our district. So I just want to be on record saying that.
Thank you for the consideration.
So, Board Member Walker, Yep. Board Member Walker, you have a question?
Yes, if you're coming back, I share your feeling. If this is coming back, my expectation is a far more robust analysis of what we're going to do about retention, and just understand it. Really, what are you going to do? Because what's really happening, there's the potential right now that they are pumping air into a leaky tire. Okay? They will do all this work. If we don't understand how to create a culture to make someone hang around, right, we'll be back here. My expectations of what we'll find out is they did a great job. They recruited all these people for us. Well, next year we'll be back here with big gaps, talking about how we need them again because we need their talent to recruit more people. At some point, we need to be really committed to keep the people. Okay, paying for them would be an easier sell if there was a greater confidence that we're going to keep the people that are brought in. So that would be my expectation if you come back. What mechanisms are we going to put in there to really keep people? Thank you.
Thank you.
Board Member Brody.
So because we're in the moment, right? How, I need my kids to have their parents. I'm not gonna lie. I work with families, and it is, Ms. Hoffman she hear my cry all the time. How could we work? I'm not trying to do this again. So how are we gonna state, like, legally, what are we contracting for? How do we say that tonight? I'm gonna be honest. I got kids who need their support.
If I may, I agree with Ms. Brody. There's a way we can take a quick break, maybe, and figure out the language. And I know our legal representation is here, so I don't know if that's possible.
We're talking across the table. I think we have time to bring this back. And I share your...
Mr. Walker, my day job is I'm in PPTs all day, every day. We do not, our young people don't have time. And I am not, everybody here know I'm not a contract out kind of girl. I'm not, because we should have our own employees who get benefits, who are in our unions, period. But it is crucial, trust me when I say a young student struggling, because they're supposed to have a person with them every day, guiding them and supporting them as their IEP states. They don't, and they're just, is really, we're really bad in our staff. And I agree with you. We have to do a better job. And I'm thinking through this contract, it comes with training, right? We're training them, but we have to foster a healthy culture. We have to give our employees what they need. But even those that we're seeking to find from this contract, they still support the teacher. They support, because if you don't have a substitute teacher, kids getting split up and you get in a bigger number classroom. So we're all losing when we don't have the support, but I'm hoping we can get some comfortable language.
So
because the 2.5 just sounds like we're contracting with ESS for 2.5 and we're not.
Correct.
Okay.
Mr. Chair, if I could just make a comment really quick. It's my understanding that right now Hartford is not in compliance And I don't know if there's at all, and I urge us to keep that in mind as we move forward. We are not in compliance with the state at all, period. So this is an urgent situation and an urgent matter that I think needs to be addressed. Thank you.
I'd like to call a recess, actually. Can we call a recess? Ms. Attorney Miserick, can we call a recess? Or do we have to make a motion here, take the vote? All right, so we have a motion on the floor. So I'm trying to. Okay, I'll be right back. All right, so thank you for your patience. I actually like to make a motion to amend the motion that's on the table for it to now read, the motion of Harvard Board of Education authorizes the superintendent to execute the contract with ESS for the term outlined in the contract ending June 30th of 2024 at the amount not to exceed $2,514,611, inclusive of the salaries of any individuals placed by this contract. Do I have a motion to accept the amended motion?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
The motion moves. The amended contract. Now we'll take a vote for the amended contract, for the amended motion. Motion on the floor is that the motion of the Hartford Board of Education authorizes the superintendent to execute a contract with ESS for the term outlined in the contract ending June 30th of 2024 at the amount not to exceed $2,514,611, inclusive of salaries of any individual placed by this contract. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any nays?
Nay.
Abstentions? The ayes have it. Motion moves. Item 4.3, contract continuation approval, autumn transportation. Motion, Hartford Board of Education authorizes the superintendent to execute a contract with autumn transportation for the term outlined in the contract ending June 30th, 2024 at the amount not to exceed $25 million. Do I have a motion?
So moved. Second.
Superintendent?
Yes, for a little background, Autumn Transportation is our current bus company. The current contract is for 3 years, and it allowed for 2 one-year extensions. And so this is the request to extend the contract for the last remaining extension year. As we know, the climate for new contracts in this space is not favorable. During this current year, there were several districts that faced considerable bus driver shortages, interfering with students arriving to school, and even districts that had to change bell times or close. And so Hartford Public Schools, along with Autumn Transportation, were able to minimize some of these issues and be proactive to address or prevent any impact given the driver shortages. We have not had any delays to school or to have to cancel because of the shortages. So extending the contract for the last extension year will come with some enhancements. There's a new parent app where it's kind of similar to Uber Eats, where parents can track where the bus is, digital on-time bus reporting, as well as testing for a digital dispatching system. We know that over the past 4 years, Autumn has been able to make big improvements on technology for all of their buses. And each bus and van is equipped with audio and video cameras. They all have GPS, and so we will, from a process perspective, we will be going out to RFP for the next transportation contract, and will include, for example, some of those features that already Autumn provides. I'm going to pause there and ask our team members to be ready, Chief Davis Gooch, to be ready for any questions.
Thank you. Are there any questions from my colleagues? Board Member Walker?
No comment.
Board Member Brody?
And I don't know if this is something that has to come as a result of maybe a, in the future. I spoke to it a little bit in committee, one of the committees, in regards to the expectation of school bus driver conduct. Not just, I just see too much. I complain, I'm telling you, I don't want to call him by his first name, but I don't know his last name, Bill, and then Miss Huge to hear all my complaints. But how you conduct yourself, our kids are with you and they're watching, they're seeing you, and some of the conduct that I see, I complained, a school bus driver, she blocks the road every day at Annie Fisher and lets all the buses go. 20 buses, she blocks the road and she does this every morning. Someone spoke to her, she did it as early as this morning. So she stops the traffic, people can't drop off, people can't move, people got to be behind 20 buses. So maybe like if whatever bus company that we're choosing in the future, that we like make it like high on a priority list about bus driver conduct, because our kids are watching that, because it's other things that I won't bring up this evening, but I'm just hoping that's a part of our conversations when we're, it might just be a high standard. I'm not saying it's not a high standard of theirs, but the expectation to be clear, because it is very noticeable day to day.
Thank you for that. It is certainly will be in the future RFP, and it is something that we'll continue to monitor as we go through the next school year. Bill Mason would say that he does keep an eye on it, and he does have the right to remove the driver from our route, not necessarily from Alton. So anytime we get a complaint, I mean, I do track his numbers. He does stay on top of that. You're welcome.
I do have a question. The $25 million, can you maybe just share with us how much of that is allocated for special ed?
Yep. It is actually the majority of the costs. The estimated cost for special education door-to-door is $20,513,000.
Board Member Walker.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Sorry, Chief David Scooge. One feedback I heard post our committee discussion was about bus on-time delivery to schools. Is that tracked, and how is that monitored? And here's where I'm getting at. I mean, there's a start time for school, and buses may get there, but is there a designated time they're supposed to get there? And does someone track? How is that reported? What data do you get on that?
Yep, you know what? So I'm not going to speak to what I don't know exactly, but I do know that there is a report that Bill does access to ensure that the buses are there on time. He also connects with the dispatcher on a daily basis to track. We know that the buses have GPS, so when there is a concern, he certainly can check when the bus arrived and when the bus left. And he would also say that there are many factors that contribute. Sometimes we have schools, for whatever reason, that may let a classroom out late. So you know we have tier 1, tier 2, tier 3. So if we have a delay at any tier because the buses cycle through each tier, sometimes it just impacts the entire tier. So I can certainly get back to you with that answer about how exactly we track the bus's time of arrival and time of exiting the building.
Thank you. You're welcome. Beyond this, I think maybe we try to figure out if we can have a way that can be more transparent, because it's hard to defend when people are talking about buses arriving late. I don't have a way to say one way or the other. So if there's a way that there's a report that people can see or that can be reported that kind of shows it.
Mm-hmm. I can appreciate that for certain, but again, we have the GPS. I think it's just we have to figure out how to pull out the reporting to just make it a standard report.
That's it.
Thank you. Are there additional questions? Seeing none, the motion on the floor is that the Hartford Board of Education authorizes the superintendent to execute a contract with Autumn Transportation for the term outlined in the contract ending June 30th of 2024 at the amount not to exceed $25 million. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Any nays? Abstentions? The ayes have it. The motion moves. Thank you.
Thank you.
Item 4.4, contract continuation approval, CBS therapy. Motion that the Hartford Board of Education authorizes the superintendent to execute a contract with CBS Therapy for the term outlined in the contract ending June 30th of 2024 at the amount not to exceed $1,008,525. Do I have a motion?
So moved. Second.
Superintendent?
Yes, CBS Therapy provides temporary and permanent staffing for speech and language pathologists, occupational therapists, PT, physical therapies, and occupational and physical therapist assistants. So the speech and language pathologists have and continue to be designated by the state as a shortage area, and so it is necessary for us to continue to utilize this service to ensure compliance with federal and state special education guidelines. So we will hope to contract to provide speech and language services to mandated Hartford Public School students who require these services. We've worked with CBS Therapy in the past. and have a very successful relationship. They've been able to fill all of our needs in a timely and consistent manner with their highly skilled professional staff. So this specifically year, we are requesting to contract for 8.5 with FTEs with CBS. I'll pause there, and I know that Ms. Hoffman and Ms. Ward are here to answer any questions.
Are there any questions from my colleagues? Board Member Brody?
Because one of the things that superintendent stated was temporary and permanent hiring. I'm assuming this is different from, very different from the previous contract with ESS, but is it any way that we could get to that space that we're using a CBS therapy not to just give us temporary workers and paying them for their service and finding them, but this probably is a question maybe more for Dr. Curtis, and to actually get us people that can be our employees and not just keep on paying them to find us employees.
So with CBS, we've actually had one therapist actually stay with us, that they were able to say, yep, you can have her. She's worked with you for a couple years. So they do work with us on a, depending on the therapist and whether the therapist wants to join us as well, and how long the therapist has been with their company. The other part of this is we do a lot of virtual therapy with them. So we as a Hartford Public Schools do not allow hiring for virtual therapy. So some of that has to do with our practice. So we can't hire the virtual therapist, where we might be able to talk with them about hiring the in-person.
So it could be therapists that aren't local to our area.
Yes,
correct.
Thank you.
Okay.
Are there additional questions or comments? Seeing none, the motion on the floor is that the Hartford Board of Education authorizes the superintendent to execute a contract with CBS Therapy for the term outlined in the contract ending June 30th of 2024 at the amount not to exceed $1,008,525. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Any nays? Abstentions? The ayes have it, the motion moves. Moving on to item 4.5. Second reading and adoption, student health services. Motion that the Hartford Board of Education adopts policy 5141, student health services. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
The school district medical advisor is an important role in the Hartford Public Schools. We care deeply about the health of our students and want to ensure that the district health practices align with the state requirements and help our children continue to thrive. Significant updates to the student health services, school medical advisor policy to ensure it reflects the Department of Health, to ensure the policy reflects the current Department of Public Health regulations as well as state and federal law. In alignment with our practice, all board members have received copies of this policy for review and comment. This is our second reading and on tonight's agenda for adoption. I will now open the floor for any comments or questions as we have Dr. Silva here.
I have a comment, but it's not for Dr. Silver. It's for I don't want to tear her name up, but
Is it for this policy?
Yes, Ms. Comides, in terms of, because we're saying that we're adopting this policy tonight, which will most likely pass, but I probably said it in committee last month or so about how our student health services and our data, how we have entities in our community that service our students too, and that they're trying to work with us, not on private data, but on data that should be released to them, instead of saying, go look on this, we report it to the state and go look, look at our data on the state website or wherever it's posted, but actually to work with health organizations that are concerned about STDs and all of those things and trying to do preventative measures in our community, that I'm hoping that we could be a better partner to those agencies in our community, because they are working with our students outside when they're outside of school. So it's definitely not for Dr. Silver, but something I definitely wanted to state on the record.
Thank you, Board Member Brody. Board Member Walker.
Yes. Dr. Silver, I maybe want you to comment on that. I thought when we talked in committee...
Point of order. Do you have a question regarding the policy, not...
Yes.
The policy.
This is in the policy. So what I'm saying is, I thought in the policy there was language there that talked about our ability to provide information about the student, particularly in the way that helps with the kind of demographic information that Ms. Brody is talking about, in terms of like immunization or who has tuberculosis and things where we're sharing demographic information without necessarily sharing students' personal information. Would you comment on that, Dr. Silver?
Yes, sir. Thank you so much for that question. We do have the statement, data related to health information in the schools can be shared in summary without student identifying information when appropriate. So that language is included in the policy, sir.
Thank you very much.
Seeing no other questions or comments, the motion on the floor is that the Hartford Board of Education adopts Policy 5141, Student Health Services. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any nays? Abstentions? The ayes have it. Motion moves. Item 4.3, first reading, several policies. Bylaw, apologies, item 4.6. Policies with edits, bylaw 9321, committee meetings. At the request for more opportunity for the public participation was brought to the policy committee. Robert's Rule of Order were reviewed and examined, and the language change to our bylaws is integrated as follows. At the discretion of the committee chairperson, a committee may provide opportunity for public participation. Bylaw 9312, formulation, adoption, and amendment of the bylaws. Policy language has been updated to include deleting old policies. This is needed because there are policies within our manual that are obsolete, and we need a process for removing them. Bylaw 5141, reporting to parents. As directed by CABE, based on the policy audit provided to the district, we are adopting the reporting to the parents policy and consolidating policies 5122, reporting to the parents student progress, and 5123, students parent-teacher communication, into a single policy numbered 5124/6142. Policies for recodification, no content was edited, only a change in the policy number. Report cards, changed from 6142 to 6146.12. Grading, changed from 6146 to 6146.1. As this is the first reading, no vote is required at this time. However, are there any questions or comments on these policies?
A question
Board Member Brody.
on the participation of the community. Is that defined, or is it participation of the community in a committee at the discretion of the committee chair?
Yes, so that is, if I may, in Chapter 10 of Robert's Rules of Order, there is the recommendation that also aligns with the Freedom of Information Act, which directs us to add the statement, because we did not have the statement in our policy. At the discretion of the committee chairperson, a committee may provide opportunity for public participation. And so that does open the opportunity for the chair of the committee to invite public engagement during a committee meeting.
So is that at our discretion? And I'm making note because we had a committee that it got kind of like, okay, participation of the community, but as far as like the board members and the decision making of the members, it kind of was like a gray area that we value your voice. We absolutely want your input, but when it comes to decision making, is that just for board members?
Yes, ma'am, it is for board members.
Dr. So let me answer that. So I just want to clarify for public assumption that committees of the board are for board members. So when we say participation is for public comments, very similar to what we have here. So I just want to clarify that committees are for board members and that we're giving the opportunity in writing now. I think we've done this in practice. I know Pastor Johnson has done this before where we allow for public comments at committee meetings, but the ultimate vote at committee meetings are of board members.
And does that extend to if it's not a vote, but it is the consensus gathering is of board members in that committee?
I would say is at the discretion of the chair, and I'm assuming the information gathering. I think the chair is taking input from everyone, but the ultimate vote at the committee level is for board members.
Thank you.
Are there additional questions? Board Member
Yeah,
Walker.
I'll just put it out there because I've got the pushback on the discretion of the chair comment. Essentially, from the Robert's Rules of Order, there's the assertion that there's a discretion of a chair, but with the consensus of the board. The concern that was expressed to me is that somehow a chair can unilaterally make a determination without any kind of polling of the board. And if one were to look at the Robert's Rules of Order, I think there's a sense that there's a chair to kind of drive an agenda and direct an agenda, but that somehow there's some consensus of the board that the chair needs to seek. And what I would encourage you to kind of suss that out and really determine if that is indeed needed or not. Because if it is, I think that language needs to be put in there as well. If it isn't, we need to be clear because I certainly get in that question. Right. Is that clear?
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Thank you, Mr. Walker. I know this is a first reading, so when we bring this back to committee, welcome that.
I was going to bring it
that
up
feedback.
then.
Thank you, Dr. Silver, and I appreciate that. As you mentioned, this is our first reading, and I know several of us are on the policy committee, so I'm actually very interested to see how that conversation goes. Item number 5, consent agenda. Items on the consent agenda are 5.2, contract continuation approval, Power Schools. 5.3, contract continuation approval for Qualtrics. 5.4, contract continuation approval for the Stepping Stone Group, LLC. 5.5, contract continuation approval, Solent Health, Inc. 5.6, contract continuation approval, Connecticut Behavioral Health, LLC. 5.7, contract approval, AMN Healthcare. 5.8, approval of educational specifications and grant submission. Bachelor Montessori, Sanchez and Sands. 5.9, acceptance of funds, Department of Public Health. And 5.10, approval of minutes, April 18th of 23. Any comments or questions on the consent agenda? Do I have a motion to take the consent agenda up as one item?
So moved. Second.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any nays? Nay. Abstentions? The ayes have it. Now that the consent agenda is one item, do I have a motion to vote on the consent agenda?
So moved. Second.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Nay? Abstentions? The ayes has it. Item, business agenda items number 6, executive session. Discussion documents related to the collective bargaining agreement. We'll be going into executive session to discuss documents related to the collective bargaining agreement. Do I have a motion?
Second.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any abstentions? Any nays? Abstentions? The ayes have it. We will be taking into executive session Chief Curtis, Chief Penn, and Attorney Melinda Kaufman and Lori Miserick. Thank you.
still be open? 'Cause I was gonna grab one of those if it's gonna.
I have to go back to a meeting now.
Business agenda item 7, items 4 point, nope, hold on, sorry, I apologize. Correct. Business agenda item 7.1. Approval of proposed collective bargaining agreement with Hartford Educational Support Personnel, Local 82 AFSA, AFL-CIO. Motion on the floor that Hartford Board of Education approve the collective bargaining agreement with the Hartford Educational Support Personnel, Local 82 AFSA, AFL-CIO. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any nays? Abstentions? The aye has it. The motion moves. The June 13th Hartford Board of Education meeting is now adjourned. Thank you. Have a good evening.